Welcome to the Powercat Podcast, the original K-State sports show. Here's your host, Tim Fitzgerald.
Welcome to another edition of the Powercat Podcast. Cole Carmody, Ryan Gilbert, and myself, Tim Fitzgerald. This one could get interesting following Kansas State's 73-70 loss to Drake last night at Sprint Center. There, I said it. Sprint Center.
Yes.
Sorry, T-Mobile. And the fan reaction has been hostile. The discussion in the postgame press conference was interesting, and we'll get to all that. And, of course, this is the Questions Podcast. It's driven by the questions asked at Wabash Station from our subscribers. If you'd like to become a subscriber, now's a great time to do it. We're at 50% off. I think maybe through the end of the year, we'll just hold this special and keep it up there. So 50% off an annual subscription right now. Treat yourself to a great Christmas present that'll make you happy all year long, just like Ryan Gilbert. The great present that makes you happy all year long. I'm gonna be like really like nice to you in this episode, but like creepy nice, like way too nice.
Fitz, before we start the questions, guys, you know, the one perk about I guess you have to sign up for full price to get this, but we used to talk about getting Paramount Plus with the subscription.
They don't like us to talk about it.
I know they don't like
which is the strangest perk I've ever heard of. Yes, they'll get this, but don't talk about it because there's a lot of Paramount Plus stuff out there. You know, I don't know, but yeah,
I was just gonna plug Landman because I watched that show now, and I don't know if you guys have watched that show, but I'm going to draw a K-State sports comparison here. K-State basketball needs a Billy Bob Thornton in the program.
Yeah.
In that show, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah. I haven't looked at Billy Bob the same since the movie Monster. And if you're an older person and have seen that movie, you know exactly what I'm talking about. How you doing, Hallie? Good to see you. Hey, yeah, Paramount Plus is awesome. It's programming. It's fantastic. Lioness just finished second season. Freaking awesome show. And of course, you've got the odd thing is you don't have Yellowstone on there because they sold the rights at the start of the show to Peacock. But you have everything else, all the other spinoffs. Just great programming. I mean, both the direct spinoffs of Yellowstone have been fantastic, the historical ones, and now we're getting second season of 1920, whatever. So I love it. It comes free. Just a few little clicks you got to make with a full price subscription. And I guess you can figure out a way to get that if you really want it. If you're going to get Paramount Plus, you might as well get 24/7 sports. Enough of that stuff. Let's get to your questions from Wabash Station. And again, if you'd like to sponsor this wonderful podcast, we're looking. I haven't looked real hard lately, though. I've been busy. Yeah. But after the start of the year, I'll get that locked down with someone. And if you're interested, reach out to me. Gills, take it away as we delve into basketball, then football. And boy, I'm sure we got some good stuff for basketball. Nothing much is going on, though. Wow.
From Ghost Day Kate, are we the worst fans in sports? And also from KSU Burke 54, was it right or wrong? Was it the right or wrong move for Tang? And I guess you could throw Hawkins in this too, calling out fans after losing to Drake.
No, you're not the worst fan. In fact, I've dealt with far worse fans. And I want to say that's not because I get a pass from K-State fans. I've dealt with some real turds that go for personal attacks and try to demean you. But yeah, no, that's common now because cowards can hide behind burner accounts and be tough when in reality they're not tough. But you also don't know who's really behind that burner account. And it's now come to my attention, thanks to our colleague Derek Young over at KSO, our competition. He found it. He found the account. It was an Instagram response, and it's not from a K-State fan. And I'm going to be honest. I'm really flipping angry that they called out K-State fans. So some better lost a bet and angry tweeted at Coleman. That is not the fault of K-State fans. Shut up with this crap. After the game was the wrong time to do it. Hold yourself accountable, own the game, and don't try to distract fans from the crappy performance at the start of the game that led to a loss by bringing this topic up. I'm going to be blunt here. I'm going to look right in the camera. It was cowardice. Stop that. Be accountable for your performance. And 99% of the tweets I see from K-State fans are performance-based, effort-based, offense-based, coaching-based. If you can't take this criticism when you're a paid athlete, and we know you are, get another job. Turn off your freaking phone, put it aside, and go to the gym. That's how you stop nasty tweets. And don't blame every bad tweet on a bad K-State fan when there's no evidence from that account that it was a K-State fan. In fact, looking at it, it just looks like a deviant gambler, much like Gilbert. So let's be clear here. There's some K-State fans that go too far. There are burner accounts that go too far, but we don't know who those burner accounts are. And it might say they're a K-State fan, but they're not, because they're hiding their identity for a reason. And maybe it is their behavior leads to negative effects in their personal life, as it should. As it should. If you can't treat humans better than wishing them harm because you didn't get your way, you deserve the ugliness. I'm all for, and I've never done it to someone, I have no problem if you set up a burner account, you personally attack someone, you spread lies. I personally think you should be doxxed. And I know there's laws against it, but I'm against those laws. You should be held accountable for your actions. It's almost like arguing I robbed the bank, but I had my face covered, so I should get away with it. No, be accountable. Whether you're the social media person or the athlete receiving the social media, it's part of the job. It's part of my job. I get this stuff too. And I fire back. I don't mess with it. But if you can't handle that, you better just get off online. And also, Coleman, I love you. You're growing on me a lot because I thought you were marvelous in that game. But dude, you talk crap on internet all the time. I mean, no, nobody should be wishing anybody harm. But also, it didn't belong in the post-game press conference. Talk about the game, not that your player checked his phone immediately following the game. Don't do that. I'll have more daily deliveries in the future.
So this is interesting, guys, because Fitz, whenever I cover basketball a little bit more closely, I would always go to the post-game press conferences, and you had a chance to be around the team a little bit more. This is the first game I've covered this year, and it was an interesting mood. And right now on the K-State beat, we don't have a lot of, I don't want to say veteran guys, but us three have been covering K-State, and I'm going to take you out of this, Fitz, because you are the original K-State reporter. But I would say that me and Gilbert have been around just about as long as anybody has. And obviously Kellis and Derek, but Derek wasn't there. Drew Galloway was there, but really, it was pretty much a room more so full of more, I don't want to say younger people, but just guys who maybe haven't been around as much. But it felt like a moment where I asked Coleman Hawkins, what is the message to your team? Like, that's, I think, important in this context, because that question literally was, what is the message to your team? And I was really surprised when he said that answer. And it was a long-winded way of him saying, those guys in the locker room are feeling the pressure. That was my biggest takeaway, is they're feeling the pressure, not just from fans, but from the coaching staff. I mean, guys, Moby Ike Garuka got in the game. If that doesn't show you that there's pressure on these players to perform, like, the coaches are putting pressure on these guys too, rightfully so. They're not winning. But he said, it's us against the world. And I think that if that is going to be the model that they're going to have to rally behind, and they're going to say it's us versus everybody, if that's the model you have to have, then that's the model you have to have. If it wins basketball games, guess what? It won't be them versus everybody, because we've seen how loyal K-State fans are. K-State fans will support a winner. If this team gets on a roll, there will be fans that support these guys. I've been telling people all day, guys, the people who are frustrated right now, they're not really necessarily calling out the players as much as they're calling out the coaching staff. And we've heard football talk about it. We've heard basketball talk about it. Those are grown men. They accept that. Jerome Tang has said as much. He understands that he can take the criticism. He can take the blame. He acknowledged in his press conference that it affects him. But I think the comments about, those aren't real K-State fans. I think what he's talking about really, guys, is the people who go and cross that line. There hasn't been very many people who have crossed that line. Calling for a coach to be fired, I don't think is crossing that line. You can have your opinion. If that's what you think, that's what you think. I'll be the first to admit, I think you're wrong. I don't think Jerome Tang should be fired. I'll fire back at you just like you said, but you can have that opinion. Jerome Tang understands you can have that opinion. But it's the people who say, oh, I'm not watching this team, I'm giving up on this team, and then immediately go out and say, this person makes this too much money. This person makes too much money. This person is a snaky, greasy car salesman of a coach. It's those kind of insults that cross the line. Agreed. And I think that's what he was calling out.
Agreed. Gills, you're the rational one. Go.
Am I? The words that I used, guys, in my post-game analysis that went up on Wednesday, for every game that I do, I had a bullet point of things I do and don't like. And the last one, I mentioned this press conference, and what I didn't like about it was that it felt like they were seeking comfort. And Fitz, I know you mentioned this on your radio hit with WIBW. You used the word they were leaning on a crutch, right? Like this was, there's a debate going on with fans about the comments from Hawkins and Tang. I don't necessarily have a strong opinion one way or another. I don't disagree with anything you guys have said, right? But my biggest thing was the timing of it, right? If this was on Monday, right, when we don't get players, but we had Tang before the Drake game, if that gets brought up then, it doesn't, I don't want to say it doesn't get blown out of proportion. That's probably not the right word, but it's not as big of a deal. But you lose to St. John's, you have 10 days off, you lose to Drake. You're not talking about, they did obviously kind of talk about the game a little bit and what went wrong, but when the biggest storyline of the presser is the fan base and NIL and pressure, it's not the right time. And it felt like they were either subconsciously or consciously, I don't know, it felt like they were seeking comfort, and that is not going to help you win games. You got to run to the challenges, not away from the challenges, right? This team has to get better on the court, the coaching, the players, everything has to get better. And when you're talking about fans, NIL after a loss, that seems like it's seeking comfort in my eyes. And that's what I didn't like about it. I don't necessarily have a big problem one way or another with whatever was said. You can have your opinion, like Cole said, that's fine. If you want to be rational, great. It was the timing of the words in the press conference that I didn't really love.
I agree. I think some people need to be reminded that there's human beings on the other end of those tweets or Instagram posts or DMs or whatever. And I think that's important to understand. But this is also important to understand. K-State fans are passionate to, I think, the appropriate level. Now, I've interacted with some fan bases that I think go over the top, and I've interacted with some fan bases that don't really care. They just want to be jerks. But I think K-State fans get it. If you're winning, if you're doing it the right way, if you're inspiring them, man, they show up in big numbers. And that's not even like, hey, you're winning, going to the NCAA tournament. You're just playing hard and performing better. K-State fans buy in. But when you start this stuff, when you clearly are underperforming based on what we, quite literally were sold, then they're gonna say, okay, you think some of us aren't real fans? I'm out. I'm done. And you don't want to be there, because as Gene Taylor said, it's a lot worse to have a fan base that disconnects than is angry. If they're not angry when they should be, they're gone. And that takes years to fix. So it's easier to maybe fix the problems with the basketball team that is underperforming by all calculations. Let's do that. And they came there. Let's get to the game, Gills, because they did indeed show improvement. And I think that's at the end of the day, the start of the game was the most pitiful performance. It was disgusting. As I said, they're making up for the inefficiencies on offense by being bad on defense too. I mean, this is a really balanced team because it was awful. They're down by 20. You dug the hole. You got out of the hole. You couldn't get all the way out of the hole, and they won. And I think that losing at the last second, going to overtime, when you guys should have just kept your foot down and pulled away. But the mistakes, the letdowns, I mean, they hit the game-winning shot because of a defensive lapse. You can't let him get that clean look. Look, I love Brendan Housen as a player. He's not the one to be defending the 3-point shooter at the buzzer. So let's do this. You focus on getting better, and the fans will focus on being better. Go.
I don't have anything else to add, but
I'm really angry about that post-game press conference. And I was glad I didn't go last night because I'm exhausted. I need some downtime. I didn't want to go to Kansas City. It's cold out. I'm soft. But I wish I'd been in that press conference because it would have been a spectacle. I would have probably lost my shit. I would have. What are we doing? Can we talk about the game? Why are you checking your phone before you come in here? Put your phone down, man. And that's coming from me, who never puts his phone down.
Well, it quickly evolved into that conversation. Like, it didn't start out like that. Nobody was asking about that. And then again, when the question was asked, what's the message inside of the locker room, that happened with Hawkins. And so that was pretty much the end of the players, and Coach Tang walked in, and, credit Vince from WIBW for, I don't want to say he asked a question, but he was like trying not to ask a question, but asking a question. And he did a really good job about, saying, hey, this is what Coleman said. Like, what do you think about that? While also kind of saying Coleman played well. What do you think of his performance? It was actually a really smart question. And Tang answered it, kind of. And I essentially, we essentially asked a follow-up question. Is it difficult? How do you coach these kids to not look at that? Because naturally, that's going to be the question. If kids are talking about that, as a staff, how are they supporting them and making sure that that doesn't happen? And then obviously we got the soundbite from Coach. And you know what? Again, I would much rather focus on the game. Because I do think there was a lot of things to take away from this game, which I'm sure we'll get into. But, it's just disheartening.
They didn't want to focus on the game. They didn't want to.
No, I agree.
That's what that was about.
Fitz, get off your phone too, by the way.
What's funny about that is I was responding to a text from Derek. So making sure I saw that he'd found who put that out there, and that he's clearly a gambler and not a K-State fan. So I told him, I just spoke about you on our podcast. So
from
we
Sunshine 2012, what was that end of regulation play?
Can I explain what the play was? Because I went back and watched this. I'm not a basketball guy. I'm not a basketball guy, but I will say this. I think it was pretty obvious what they were trying to do. And I think everybody in the arena, including the Drake bench, knew exactly what was coming. First of all, let it be known, you can't see this on TV. Coach Tang is telling Doug, who's dribbling the ball at the top of the key, hold on. At 8 seconds, they start the play. Brendan Housen gets screened. He comes over. Ball screens for Doug McDaniel. Doug McDaniel has the opportunity to drive in or pass it to Housen, who's standing at the top of the key. He decides to pass to Housen, which I'm sure everyone on Drake said, do not let this guy touch the ball because he will shoot it from anywhere. Well, he caught the ball, but he was smothered, and he shot it, and it didn't go in. I think that was the play. I think they tried to execute the play. I don't know if it was good play. I kind of like the idea of getting Brendan Housen the ball. I just didn't like how it worked out. So to me, I talked about this on a little Twitter space I did after the game. That's what I saw. I don't know what you saw, Fitz.
Well, I saw them doing that. It's just they didn't do anything to do that.
Right.
I mean, did I miss all the picks that Housen ran through to pick off his man, or maybe to create a distraction so he can throw the ball to the rim? I must have missed that part. Now, I saw the point guard just dribble out the clock. First of all, I want to say this. I think Jerome Tang waits too long on those end of game situations, because by the time he tells him to go, it takes a second or two to get going. Right. And really, you're actually engaging the play closer to 6 or even 5 seconds. That's not enough, man. You got to start this thing at 10. And if they get a crack, okay. But at least you got a better crack than you would have in the other way. But yeah, I mean, I stop and think about all the opportunities they had to run someone off picks or try to create an alley-oop, which they've done to great effect at end of games. Use Housen as a decoy and throw that ball up to Coleman, who can jump higher than the sun. Go get that ball. Nobody on Drake was going to stop him from catching an alley-oop without fouling him, unless Doug Sermons was not going to call it, which is also a possibility. But I wasn't a fan of the play, and not just because it didn't work, but because it wasn't going to work. Drake is way too well coached. You might get away with that nonsense against some teams, but you're not going to get away with that from a team that's been coached with Ben McCollum for years. I mean, he's the first year at Drake, but enough of those dudes played for him at Northwest Missouri State. And a shout out, help me out. Who's the kid's name that absolutely went off from 3-point range?
Mitch Mascari.
Mitch, fantastic game. I know you're a K-State fan.
Well, Strivitz, or the guy who the game-winning shot was the K-State fan from.
Oh, okay.
He's the one that's dating the Classy Cat.
Yes.
Oh, well, you got great taste in women, and you're a K-State fan. And I'm sorry that K-State didn't look at any of you from Kansas City, because the previous staff didn't do that, and I don't think this staff is doing that, when there should be like 4 foundational pieces on this team from the area. It just should be. I'm just going to say the quiet part out loud. This NIL plan isn't working at Kansas State. It's not. First of all, fans, I don't know. I need to form these thoughts better before I share them. It's just not working, and I think you need a better foundation to your program. And if you look at some of these programs, they're not signing 10 new players with 3 young guys or 2 young guys who haven't been really consequential pieces of your team, and 1 role player. They're signing new players. They're bringing in players to the portal, but they have a foundation of 5-6 guys that has the system, can coach the players on the stuff that the coaches don't coach. Here's how you how you do this. This is how you make coach happy. This is how you can make coach mad. This is what he wants. This is what he needs. But they don't have that. It's reinvention of the team every year, and this is what we're seeing. Yeah, they're struggling to come together because they're an all-new group. That's what happens most of the time.
Back to the play here and guys, we need an intervention. It's Brendan Hausen. You guys keep saying Hausen, and it's driving me nuts. Brendan Hausen.
Sorry, Gilbert.
I apologize that you pronounced your name wrong.
Can I just call him the Amarillo assassin from here on out?
Yeah, go for it. That'd be great. But he's the Amarillo assassin.
Hausen.
He is a shooter. Hausen is a shooter, right?
Hausen. I'm a brick. Hausen.
May I go now? Are you done?
Yeah, go ahead. I'm done saying.
He's a shooter. That's very clear and obvious. He is a sniper, and Drake knew that. And I don't want to say Drake knew that was coming, but I think you just want to get more creative than that, right?
Yeah.
Brendan Hausen is a shooter. He's a sniper. That's kind of all. If he gets the ball in his hands, that's what's happening. Whereas if you get Coleman Hawkins or any other versatile player on this roster who can get downhill, step back, all the above, it creates maybe more of a challenge for Drake. But just in terms of the scouting report, I think that one was just too easy for Drake to defend. But the biggest thing in my eyes, guys, is Brendan Hausen played like 23 minutes in this game. And I would have rather have had, again, a guy like Coleman Hawkins or somebody else that was more into the rhythm, the flow, the groove of the game. And that's not a knock on Hausen. He just didn't play as much as other guys. So, it didn't work out, guys. If it worked out, and Hausen, that shot that he kind of hoists up does go in, we're not having this conversation, but could have been better. And I know Jerome Tang, he, I commend him. He took blame for that in the postgame presser. He did talk about the game a little bit. He said that was on him. He needs to be better, getting his team a better look.
Gilbert, you know what we need? We need a film study. We need a film study of that last play.
We can't find the game.
Yeah.
I was searching for it. We can't find the game.
Yeah. That's the problem.
K-State just needs to play on network television from here on out. Right.
Well, if that's what you want this season, you're not going to be happy when you look at the channels of the Big 12 slate.
No kidding.
From Rastlin 1982, does Tang care more about practice dedication than in-game production? And also from Wildcat Will 41, has the basketball staff leaned too heavily into recruiting high-end talent instead of adding pieces that will play with an underdog mentality? For example, Desi Sills.
Look, I don't quite understand the player usage. David Castillo starts, commits a foul, and goes into witness protection. Other guys start, make numerous mistakes, and stay on the floor. Caleb Rich I'm glad he gets to do the dunk after warm-ups because he doesn't get to do anything else. And I'm trusting that there's something going on in practice, but you wanted this guy back. I don't know how the staff is going to retain any recruits at this pace. So yeah, I'm a little concerned about what we're seeing, but I also trust coaches to know who their players are. Because if you don't know that, it's a disaster. You know, if you can't figure out who your best players are and why they should be on the floor, then this is all meaningless. But yeah, I understand. I get it. I would like to see some different mixes, and I did like the fact. By the way, I'm searching for something here.
On your phone?
No, on my computer thing right in front of me, right here. Hausen had 11 minutes in the first half, 10 in the second. I'm actually a little surprised by that. And did he have 3 points last night? That's it?
Yep.
That's not your guy to take the shot. Anyhow, I liked when they went to the 3 guards and quicker guards. I thought that changed the dynamic of the game. It emphasized Kansas State's athleticism, and then they started to use it. I thought they found their first real kind of identity during that stretch. And they started to attack the rim, and not just attack the rim, but attack the rim to create for others. And I'm telling you, that is so much more effective, particularly for 3-point shooters. If that ball's coming inside out, then just passed around the edge, it works so much better. They looked like a really good team for that stretch, and it did give me hope. So if you think I'm just negative Nelly about this, no, I'm not. I'm still hopeful that this team can perform at a high level and do some really cool things this year. But time's running out. Saturday at Wichita State's it for the non-conference. You've put yourself in a corner I'm not sure you can escape because the Big 12 is so good this year and better than – I think the worst team in the Big 12 is probably better than anyone they played. I'm just saying that. I don't have any evidence of that. Maybe Drake would get 14th in this conference. That's a well-coached team. That's an extremely well-coached team with limited talent. But the fact that that can take place tells you all you need to know. And this group needs to play better. The coaches need to coach better. And hell, I'll say it, the fans need to fan better. Let's see what they do in Wichita on Saturday night. The guy to my right, maybe on, I don't know what side Gilbert is facing you. I'm sorry. I'm sober. I don't operate well sober. Ryan Gilbert will be there. I'm not going because I'm watching football.
Who says I'm not going to be?
I'll use my time.
Nah, I'm just kidding. But I like how you mentioned Buddy Rich because there was a question about that. I didn't include it, but Ugo in the same boat didn't play at all in this game either, and Byfall didn't as well. And so they're giving guys like Moby and Taj a chance to play meaningful minutes in the first half. Castillo, of course, gets the first start of his K-State career. So I don't know why those guys didn't play. Like I genuinely don't know. But what I can tell you guys is for a fact that this coaching staff, Jerome Tang, is pleased and happy with those three guys' buy-in. And that kind of earned them their minutes. They're putting it in the facility, weight room, on their own, going above and beyond. And I don't know if that was a quote-unquote reward for that, but given everything happening off the court with a chore leading up to this game, I don't know if it was a wake-up call for people. Who knows? But what I can tell you is that those three guys they're bought in Tang's eyes. And so I'm not going to say that the guys that didn't play aren't, but I mentioned this on the message boards, guys. Like, it kind of just seems like the writing is on the wall there, doesn't it? Right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're not, they're making Tang has made such an emphasis on buy-in in his press conferences. Well, the guys that are playing, let's call it like it is. Moby and Taz are not LeBron James and Kobe Bryant. They're not the most gifted players. So I don't know if they don't, they don't necessarily give K-State the best chance to win based on raw talent, right? So they've got to work hard, and that's kind of what got them to see the floor. So, that's kind of, I don't have much to say about this question itself, but those three guys earn their minutes in the coaching staff's eyes.
Guys, if you freaking practice hard, you deserve to play. Like, fans that are like, oh, well, where's Buddy Rich? Where's Ugo Onyenso. Like, I understand why you're frustrated, why those guys aren't playing. But again, for the 1 millionth time, we are not at practice. You, the fan, are not at practice. So if you're frustrated by saying, oh, well, if they played this guy, then they have a better chance to win. Guess what? Nobody knew freaking anything about Mr. Irish man who comes in off the bench and absolutely plays with energy. Like, if you get mad that Moby Ike, I'm on a roll right now. Gilbert, you have to help me with the last name.
Moby Ike Garuka.
Ike Garuka. If Moby comes in the game and you get mad that he's in the game, then that's on you. Because, guys, I actually thought he played with a lot of energy. Like, I thought he
I'm all in on that.
A lot of energy, and he earned himself some time. He's coming from Ellsworth Community College. It's a Division II junior college. That's going to take some time to adjust. But you know what? If he's going to come in and he's going to tip balls that go off the other team, and the ball goes to K-State, that's more effort than what some of these other guys coming off the bench have put in. And you never know. That might be the difference between winning. They lost by 3 points. Guess what? Moby, I can specifically remember a play where he went up, jumped over the Drake defender or offender, whichever side of the ball that they were on, and it went off of a Drake player to Kansas State. Like, maybe if that ball goes off of K-State, then this game doesn't even go to overtime. Who knows? But it was the little things that I thought Moby did well. Did he struggle because he hasn't played? Sure. But Taj Manning, same thing. Give those guys that practice hard opportunities in the game, because you don't know what you don't know. And maybe one of these guys will surprise you.
Yeah,
I agree.
I neglected to say that, Cole. You're right. Like, Moby and Taj and David, they played good. They didn't play great by any means, but it's unreasonable to expect two guys that haven't played meaningful minutes at all, and a guy making his first start to go out and play great. There's natural jitters there. Nervousness, I'm sure, was settling in T-Mobile Center, which is, that was the most fans that had been in front of them at all year. St. John's Carnesecca Arena was small. Bramlage hasn't been sold out. And then the Virgin Islands, I think I was one of like 74 people there. That's an exaggeration, but so I'm sure they were a little nervous. They didn't play great, but yeah, Cole, you're right. They played fine, and I like the move. That was my first takeaway in my analysis piece on Go Powercat. I like the move because clearly K-State, whatever was going on, they're leading into that game. They were 6-3. They needed a spark. And y'all know what the definition of insanity is, right? So they tried to change things up. Of course, I don't know if it.
I got no problem.
They lost the game, but they tried something new. I respect them for that. The coach.
No, I totally agree with that. What I don't like is just keep doing what you've been doing, and it's not working, and it's still not working. You have to look for solutions, and maybe they saw something out there with those players they can build upon, in terms of those players' personal skill sets, what they bring to the floor. I don't know. I'm just of the opinion that there's plenty of talent on this team. There really is. This team has pieces, but whether it's the coaches or the players themselves, you guys got to figure this out. You got to quit focusing on mean tweets and focus on being embarrassed by your performance. The start of that game should have been humiliating. That should have been the first thing discussed. The start of the game was absolutely disgusting. You're so negative. You got to be honest here. I don't know. Gilbert, what do we got?
Last question of the first half. This long first half from Rascal in 1982. Where do you predict we finish in the Big 12? And guys, I'd like for you guys can give your answer on where you think maybe K-State will predict where they'll finish. But I think K-State needs to win. Where do they need to finish? I think K-State needs probably 13 wins in the Big 12 right now. So 13-7, when you look at the resume, where K-State is right now, Fitz, you're shaking your head.
They're not going to be 7-13 right now.
Exactly. So the resume right now, there's no real terrible losses. All 4 of the losses have been quote unquote quality, but all 6 of the wins are not going to mean anything on Selection Sunday. So the Big 12, K-State has to beat KU, Houston, Iowa State, Baylor. Get those. They need bona fide quality wins for the committee to look at and say, hey, this team can compete. I think you can drop a few games to the lower half of the league, but Fitz, you're right, man. Why am I even the last 30 seconds? Why did I do that? Why did I even mention the NCAA tournament?
Okay.
They're so far from that right now.
Cole, let me just wrap this up. We got to get going here. But I haven't studied the Big 12 basketball well enough. I'm going to be honest. I need to get up to speed on it. I've been focused on football. That's honestly the main focus. And now that we're getting closer to Big 12 basketball for this channel and for our Big 12 Insiders channel, I need to get up to speed. So I'm not up to speed on how everyone's playing. But right now, this is 16th place. The level at which they've played over the first 10 games is 16th place. I don't think they will, but someone's got to finish 16th. And a team that can't improve itself consistently will finish 16th. So they better find some fixes real damn quick because they're out of time. And if they lose at Wichita State on Saturday, the fans are, it's going to be slim pickings at home. That team just lost by 10 at UMKC, who's got a good team this year, but come on. So, but I want to say this kind of brings us all home with where we're at right now. I was supposed to have an oncology televisit on a Friday, and it just happened to be the exact same time that they scheduled the football bowl press conference here in Manhattan on Friday. That's coming up, Gills. Don't let me forget. It's 11 a.m. So I messaged my medical team and said, can we just move this some other time in the day instead of 11:15 when, I've got to be somewhere at 11. And my blood work came in. My blood work is fantastic. And they just said, you know what? We don't need this televisit. Your blood work works exactly where it needs to be. Let's just schedule you out for 3 months. 3 months is the middle of May. Or middle of March, excuse me. I was going for May Madness. Right after the Big 12 tournament is when they want to see me. And I said, go ahead. This team isn't going to the postseason. I'll be freed up. It's unacceptable. This level of play that we've seen as a collective is not acceptable. What I saw after the first, Gills, 10 minutes of the game, how long did that nightmare take place before K-State started to wake up? That was acceptable. You're going to win games with that. You can't win games with 35 minutes of that when you play 45 minutes of basketball. You got to go wall to wall, like you do at practice. You don't get to take off possessions in practice. I would hope not. So play like you practice. And if you're not practicing like you play, fix it. That's it for the first half. We weren't really long. We'll speed through football, but we'll still be informative because that's what we try to do here at Go Powercat. Be fair, informative, and also get mean when we have to, but not mean tweets, just tweets that are honest. Like Ryan Gilbert.
We'll be right back after these messages from our sponsors. Welcome back to the show. Let's head back to the studio.
God dang it.
Will
you remind me to fix that?
I always forget to.
What happened?
I
clicked
tune out the end of that for whatever reason. That I don't know why it does that. It's not supposed to do that, but it does. Welcome back to the Powercat Podcast. I'm Fitz. That's Coles. That's Gills. We're here to discuss Kansas State sports, and we just did a lot of discussion of Kansas State basketball. We turn our attention to football now, and Kansas State will play Rutgers a week from today. This podcast comes out on the day that is a week prior to the game. Gills and I leave Monday for Phoenix. Next week is Christmas week. It's insanity. And it dawned on me today, I better start working on my pregame podcast because nobody's going to be able to talk to me later. So we'll start piecing that together. But as we get ready for Rutgers and Kansas State, we'll learn a lot more. I'll have a power talk after the press conference, but let's get to your questions from Wabash Station about Kansas State football.
From Cat and Colo, can you share with us what we might expect from the bowl game? Will this game be especially important for any specific players auditioning for next year? Will the seniors play minimally while the underclassmen are given the spotlight?
No, seniors will not play minimally. If they're a key contributor and they've come back to play this game, they're going to play. This game serves two purposes. It rewards performance for the season, and if they want to play in the bowl game, they should get their fair shake on that. But it also offers players an opportunity to fill gaps that have occurred from people departing or people hitting the transfer portal, whatever. And I think we'll see that at running back. I'm really intrigued to see the rotation at running back and who the young guys at receiver will be that step forward, because they're going to need that. So this is a huge opportunity for guys like that. We're going to see some opportunities on the back end of the defense. And really, that for me, this game is about that, more about the future of the program instead of any kind of ending of this season. And I thought last year they got really good energy coming out of the bowl game, and the team did go 7-1 to open the season. And the one loss we can probably admit was a really good team getting every possible break and just pummeling K-State. It just was one of those games. It was the end of the season that they just kind of ran out of not just gas, but like mental gas. So maybe that was a function of some guys being young players and going 12 games in a college football schedule over 15 weeks as a haul. But I think this starts the next season and will have an impact into their prep in the off season, let alone spring football. But I have never been involved with a Kansas State bowl game that has less oomph around it. But just nobody seems to really care. I mean, I'm sure Rutgers fans feel the same way about playing Kansas State. Huh? Kansas State, it does offer the Big 12 an opportunity to, it's a 7-win Big 10 team against an 8-win Big 12 team. If you listen to the national media, that's comparable. In fact, the 7-win Big 10 team should be a lot better, shouldn't they? Based on what we've heard. So this is an opportunity for that. But really my focus is about this team, this program taking that next step to get ready for next year, because you do get a clean start. It'd be nice to have a clean running start into that year.
It could be worse, Fitz. K-State could be playing in the New Mexico Bowl against the Louisiana Raging Cajuns.
What? You don't want to have a reunion with Adrian Lara?
that is
like the third string or second string, but maybe I don't know what their opt-out situation is. Maybe he's playing. I don't know.
Impeccable pull right there by Mr. Ryan Gilbert. No, that's who TCU plays. And so, yeah, I mean, I agree. This bowl game is more about the young guys. And the question asked, what players in particular? I have 3 players. It's number 1, number 2, and number 3. That's Jace Brown, that's Dylan Edwards, and that's Avery Johnson. And the reason why I think those 3 guys are so important is because those 3 guys next season can be all conference players. And I don't think it's far reaching to say that at this point in the season that Avery Johnson might be an all Big 12 player, at the preseason all Big 12 player. I mean, you look at his stats and you compare him to some of the guys that are returning. Sure, you can talk about Rocco Beck, you can talk about Jake Retzloff, but other than that, I mean, as far as returning quarterbacks in this conference go,
there's a guy at Arizona State that's pretty good.
And okay, thank you. Completely.
But I hear what you're saying. I mean, you look at Sam Levitt's stats and Avery Johnson's stats; they're really comparable,
right? And but Avery probably get that, but
Avery's downfall was horrifically timed turnovers.
Did you guys know that Avery Johnson can break the all-time school touchdown passing record with 3 touchdown passes in this game? Nobody's talked about that. Avery Johnson is single season. Yep.
That shows how much Bill Snyder didn't throw the ball.
Right. And people have talked about Avery not having that good of a season. But I mean, so I think Avery Johnson makes his case to be a bona fide top of the conference quarterback. I think Dylan Edwards cements his spot as K-State's number 1 option at running back. And I think Jace Brown signifies that he and Avery still have that connection, and he can be a guy that K-State fans and the Kansas State coaching staff can trust. If those 3 guys are the 3 guys who are your playmakers on offense, if those are your top 3 guys, I think that's okay. Do you probably want to have another guy in there for next season to be that third option for Avery to give the ball to? Absolutely. But I think if those are 2 of your top 3 guys, that still can be a really successful offense. And I think that Connor Riley is going to showcase that as much on Wednesday.
I do find it interesting they're sniffing around running backs in the portal, which might indicate more of a flex use of Dylan, what we expected this year, a little more receiver. Mm-hmm. I don't know. And honestly, it might just be to get someone of more physical stature than Joe, who towers over Dylan. I don't know that, but Joe's a little guy and Dylan's not real big. So maybe they're just looking for more of a third down back. I don't know.
Cole, can I tell you something? Just Fitz, just like close your ears maybe, but
Okay.
I haven't even thought about this bowl game. I'm just trying to figure out how I'm going to survive with Fitz for like 4 nights in a hotel room with him.
Yeah. Well, can I give you some pieces of advice?
Sure. I guess.
Just say yes.
It's kind of hard to act like I'm not listening when you say that.
You're supposed to cover your ears. From
Just
claws
say
out,
yes.
balls out.
Just
What
say
is
yes.
Avery's goal weight? Would you sacrifice a little speed for durability?
Those don't need to go together. Muscle mass can lead to more speed, but it could slow you down. Last I saw, Olympic sprinters aren't skinny guys. They're powerful suckers. So those don't necessarily go together. I don't know about the weight because I don't believe the weight they list. But I think he absolutely needs more muscle mass to survive. And that's not just at Kansas State. This kid has NFL aspirations. He's got NFL talent that can be developed into that level, but he's just too fragile right now. And I don't mean that as an insult. It's just a reality. They're scared to run him because the wear and tear, and they have to run him. Without running him, that just negates what the special quality of him. I mean, as a passer, he's good. As a runner, he's great. Put him together, he can be outstanding. So, that is something. That is a great question for us to ask Chris Kleiman on Friday. But there's a 95% chance I will not remember. There's a 95% chance I won't remember by the end of this question what the question was. That's the current state of my memory. Thank you, radiation. There's too much radiation.
Gilbert, you follow the NFL pretty consistently. Would you like to take a guess at how much Lamar Jackson weighs?
700 pounds. It's a bad guess.
No, 220. I don't know.
Lamar Jackson is 205.
Right.
God.
Avery Johnson is listed at 192.
Yep.
They're both 6'2", by the way. If you were to sit Lamar Jackson next to Avery Johnson, those guys are not 13 pounds apart. I'm sorry. Lamar Jackson at 205, I totally believe. I do not believe Avery Johnson is listed. I don't believe Avery Johnson is 192. I think he's probably closer to 185 than 192. So if you ask me what weight does Avery Johnson need to play at, I would tell you he needs to play at whatever weight he feels comfortable playing. Because right now, I feel like that's what this offense needs, is Avery to feel comfortable. If he feels like he can take those hits at 190 pounds, so be it. If he feels like he needs to add another 5, 6, 7 pounds, he needs to play next season at 195, 196, 197, do it. I mean, I don't think he has the frame to be 205, at least at this very moment. Maybe in 3 or 4 years, but we got to remember the kid's 19 years old.
Exactly. That's where I was going.
Yeah. So it's going to take some time for him to put muscle mass on. So, I think ideally, if he can keep his same speed and be 205 and be cloned into Lamar Jackson, there's not a single person that would tell you that they don't want that. But Lamar Jackson, a big deal was made about him putting on weight because he added 10 pounds this offseason. And everybody's like, oh, he's not going to be as good. Well, guess what? He's still pretty dang good. So, I don't really.
This is crap, man. I had 10 pounds in the offseason. My wife gets mad at me.
Relatable. Well, not the
10,
wife.
that's all? Come on, don't lie.
I'm losing weight, not gaining.
That's my answer.
I liked it. It's really smart. Yeah. I find what weight he wants to play at. He's the one taking the beating. I mean, sure, he's going to rely on the strength coach and the nutrition people to tell him what he can probably carry and what will be effective, but he needs to make a decision. Do I really need to get more muscle mass on, more weight on, or am I fine? I just need to be tougher. This is his life, his career. And I think he and his dad can probably figure that one out, taking in, the proper feedback from the science of it all. So yeah, I think he's going to have a really bright future. He just wasn't as far along as we thought he might be, but also I don't think he was used quite correctly this year. And I've said that since the start of the season.
From El Camino Cat, our leading quarterback, receiver, and tackler this season are all sophomores. We have promising underclassmen at defensive end. We have productive tight ends that are also young. Is the group of underclassmen currently on the football roster the most talented group of underclassmen football players in K-State history? We had talent in the decade of dominance, but if I remember correctly, much of it was older JUCO guys.
You're correct. El Camino, you remain one of my favorites because
Yep.
that is spot on. This was a young team with some older players on it. And I do think there's something to be said about going through their first full seasons in some ways. They ran out of gas. But that was a lesson. You take those lessons and hopefully it advances you for the future. This is a really young team. There's still players we haven't seen. Wesley Fair hasn't really got on the field, and I think he's going to be a great player as he just kind of been slower to get there. But I'm more excited about the future of this program than I have been in a long time. And this season hasn't dampened that. I think they're going to be fine in the portal. They're off to kind of a slow start while other programs are raking in guys, but K-State's approach to the portal is different. And they're making sure they find guys that fit in their locker room because, again, we saw this year that when that goes south, it really impacts Kansas State football for whatever reason. And maybe it's because the players you get in Manhattan, Kansas on an overall level, you can't have dissension. You're on a razor's edge. And when you get a little bit of tension, it comes out on the field. And you just can't have that at Kansas State. You got to be all in it together. It's just how sports work here, like everything else.
I'm going to shout out El Camino Cat because very rarely do we get onto our message boards over at Wabash Station and people agree. And I think that's the great part about our message boards is that there's such dynamic conversations that take place, and it's not just everybody agreeing. And so I think El Camino has actually been in the minority here with his opinions about the program, especially when it comes to the transfer portal, because I think really what he's also hinting at is what you mentioned with the portal is that they're going after guys to supplement this roster. Would they love if somebody could come in and be an all Big 12 performer? Of course. I mean, who wouldn't want that? And that's always the goal when you acquire people. But I think they really like their talent base. And I think it goes back to those underclassmen, those sophomores, some of those freshman offensive lineman guys. I mean, Gus Hawkins is on the 2 deep, right? Like, don't let that go unnoticed. A true freshman offensive lineman is on the 2 deep. That's wildly impressive for Gus Hawkins, true freshman. So they like this young talent that they have, and I'm excited about it because I think that if they can continue to add and supplement, add pieces around them, then they have the makings of a really good team the next few years.
Agreed.
Okay. Cole, for you, bro. Last question of the podcast from Carson 1546. When should we be expecting transfer portal commits?
Oh gosh, put me on the spot.
I know we don't get into recruiting a whole lot on this podcast, but generally speaking,
Cole, you think? Let me say this. I think the process of the portal is changing a little bit. I think there's a little more savviness with the players that if you're good enough that you're getting a bunch of attention, from 4 or 5 schools, you don't need to rush to make that commitment. You can take a second and go on your tour, and maybe it's going to be a week long where you hit 4 schools and then make a decision. In the past, if you really liked your first place, you just committed because you didn't want to get left out. But a lot of players get left out. But I think now people are beginning to realize I've got enough interest. And I think players are slowing down the choice. And also what we're seeing is the players who are being motivated by NIL are making those quick choices because that's what they're interested in. Oh, you're going to meet my number? I'm in. Is that really the reason to pick a place to play, go to college? I'm sure it's part of the decision, but if that's your entire motivating factor for making the final decision, oh, you offered me that? Okay, I'm coming to just pulling this out, Lubbock. I don't know that that's really the sound way to do it. And I think Chris Kleiman knows that, and he's gone about it a different way. And he's trying to find guys that aren't motivated by NIL. Doesn't mean they're not offering NIL. They're trying to find the guys that want to find their best place to play college football, and there will be NIL involved if they're good enough.
What time is this podcast getting posted on our website, Fitz?
Thursday. Thursday morning.
Thursday. Do you know what time?
Usually early. Usually I put it up at midnight, but I might hold off. I've got a request to hold off, and maybe we'll just save it for 7 a.m.
Okay. Well, okay. So let's just put it this way. I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to say that there will be an article just above this podcast with a player committee. So, that's my guess. So by the time you're listening to this, I think K-State will have a commitment. I think that between 7 and let's say noon, K-State will get a commit. That is my prediction. No, maybe a little insider, nothing crazy insider knowledge here. That is my prediction: is K-State will have a commitment from somebody from 7 o'clock until noon.
That's a bold prediction.
Do I get money if that happens?
We know kids say they're going to commit, and then they don't, and then they.
It's my guess.
No, we'll all keep an eye on Taylor Bratt's Twitter tomorrow. If he's bringing on the Cats before lunch, pat Cole in the back.
Can I give an update here for real quick?
Yeah, go ahead,
before we get out of here. I know people were asking about the women's basketball team, and I'd like to give their 30-second pub here. The spread for Kansas State at the time we record this against New Mexico State tonight, they were 41.5-point favorites at the Octagon of Doom. At the under 5 media timeout, they are currently winning 78-36. So if you bet that, you're probably going to be happy.
It's another overtime game, I bet. It's just the way K-State basketball's rolling. That's it for the podcast. I feel better after this. I hope you feel better. But the future of K-State sports, at least in the immediate sense, the future of K-State basketball as they head into Big 12, and of course, Kansas State football as it heads to the Rate Bowl. Yeah, we got some questions. We're going to find out together. I don't know if that's good or not, but we're going to.
This has been a GoPowerCat.com and Spirit Street production. Please support this show by subscribing to this YouTube channel or follow us on your favorite podcast platform.